Hi, folks. Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Coming up in just a few minutes, we'll talk to Richard Grinnell, political consultant, former U.S. Spokesman at the United Nations, and he will join us. He's also a Fox News contributor, I do believe. We'll be joined by Bill Kristol, founder and editor of the Weekly Standard, at the bottom of this third and final hour of the Monday edition of the Steve Malzberg Show, Thanksgiving week. Who would have thunk it? Now, I know a lot of parents, you have decisions to make about yourself and about your children when it comes to getting a flu shot. There's a terrible story that we'll tell you about a little bit later on out of Utah. But first, we're joined by our friend Doug Schoen, Fox News political analyst, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Good to talk to you.
My pleasure.
Okay, your column that you wrote asking Barack Obama to delay Obamacare. First of all, what bothers me, not about your column, because that would be perceived as a good thing, but this guy has just, he would, if he wanted to, he would just delay it. And you know what? He can't delay it. It's unconstitutional to pick and choose the way he's done it with not only this law but other laws. Shouldn't he go before Congress and say, look, in a perfect world or in a normal world, we have a problem. Let's get together and think of a solution and pass a law and fix it, or amend the law and fix it. But he'll wind up dictating it like he's dictated all the other delays, no?
Well, I certainly agree that in a perfect world, even an imperfect world, Steve, you ought to call the congressional leadership in and say we got to fix the law. I think that the nuclear option was a big mistake for the Democrats in the country, and I think that the president has governed more by, as you put it, your word again was fiat. I would say by proclamation or pronouncement. Pronouncement probably a better word. And to my way of thinking, it is unseemly and destructive to our system to not have the kind of consultation and collegial process with healthcare that I think we needed before and I think we need now.
All right, so you would like him to delay it, but delaying the inevitable, we've seen horrendous stories from people who, if they look for a new policy, once this one is gone, the prices aren't cheaper for the most part. They're more expensive with tremendous deductibles. And, I spoke to a doctor today that I know, and he said, if we join Obamacare, they don't even know what they're going to pay for procedures. So we don't even know. But we'd have to spend $40,000, $50,000 to get new computers. So the whole thing is nuts. So a delay would what would it accomplish, really?
Well, we're talking about a fix, a delay to fix, not a delay just to delay. Steve, rational people, you have to use imperfect sources of information to make the best decisions possible. But the problem here is we're not making the best decisions and we're not using our common sense.
Are the Democrats married to this? I know some have run from it to an extent. Some are displeased. Bill Clinton, of course, whether he was providing a preview of what Hillary's going to do or not. But there's always a method to what they say, I believe. So, will the Democrats, as we get closer to 2014, agree with you, or will they stick to their guns like Nancy Pelosi and Debbie Wasserman Schultz and say, oh, no, we're going to run on this in 2014?
Well, I think the chance that they run on it is pretty limited, and I think the chance that the Democrats, as the election approaches and those in marginal districts and marginal states read the tea leaves, I think there's a much greater chance that they will effectively agree with me and seek revisions in the law.
What would you advise the Congress to do, Doug, or the Senate more particularly, when it comes to sanctions on Iran? Because I haven't heard from anybody outside of the Ayatollah and the president of Iran and the Obama administration that this was a good deal for anybody other than Iran. And the Senate seems full steam ahead to more sanctions, which Iran said would kill the deal. So what would you advise the Democrats in the Senate to do?
I would follow the lead of Chuck Schumer and Bob Menendez, who have made it very clear that they're unhappy with the deal and that they are skeptical and that they want to consider tougher sanctions. I think it's a bipartisan position. I think that we have basically said to Iran, you can keep your centrifuges, keep enriching uranium, and think that this deal does very little for us and a lot for them.
In other words, if you like your nuclear program, you could keep it?
Well, you can keep it, but you might have to delay a couple of months or hide it.
All right, well, let me ask you, Doug, and we're talking to Doug Schoen here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Look, for whatever I think of the president, he is not a stupid man. He's not a dumb man. A previous guest, I think it was David Horowitz, noted earlier, or maybe it was Ralph Peters, that he was saying he's accomplished almost everything he set out to do in foreign policy. Now, I mean, look what he's done in foreign policy. He's alienated Israel. Somehow he's managed to get Saudi Arabia not to like us. We're fighting alongside Al-Qaeda in Syria. He's got the Muslim Brotherhood in charge in Libya. He almost had him in charge, did for a while in Egypt. And now he's given Iran a buy on their ability to make a bomb. So why is this what he wants to do? Because obviously it's what he wants to do.
Well, look, I'm not going to go as far as you are and say that there's deliberate malevolence or malfeasance, but I will say his judgments about foreign policy, I think, have weakened America. They've alienated us from our traditional allies, and they've emboldened the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, and the Iranians.
Yeah, well, it's just amazing. Let me end on this humorous note, if you will. I find it humorous. The GQ magazine's least influential people of 2013. They put Barack Obama on it, and the gentleman who wrote it said he could blame Republicans in Congress all he likes and get away with it because congressional Republicans are the worst. But the fact remains that I have spent the majority of this man's presidency watching bad things happen, then hearing a thoughtful speech about how we got to make sure the bad things never happen again, and then watching as nothing gets done. Next time there's an election, he says, I want Nate Silver to analyze the data and tell me who to vote for so I don't end up casting my ballot for a very eloquent hat stand. Fair, unfair?
Well, about Nate Silver, I think he's a pretty good
No, about Barack Obama being an eloquent hat stand.
Steve, where you and I part company, I don't believe in those kind of characterizations of the president of the greatest country in the world. I disagree with President Obama fundamentally, disagree with his approach, his policies, but I'm not going to characterize him in ways that lowers an office that I hold with extraordinary reverence and very high regard.
Fair enough, my friend. Okay, Doug, we appreciate you to your time as always. We'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Doug Schoen, Fox News political analyst, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Yeah, so that was GQ magazine. I don't know who actually wrote it. Back in 2011, our friend Noel Shepard at Newsbusters, who wrote this story, in 2011, GQ had this to say about the president when he was the 25th entrant. What was he here? I don't know which... what entrant he was here doesn't say. Anyway, okay, so we're cheating a bit with this one. He did order the raid that wiped Osama bin Laden off the face of the earth, but then he used that surplus of political capital to let everyone in Washington stick a boot in his blank. This is a man who should be the most... Oh, I don't have the second page. All right. Well, anyway, they didn't like him in 2011, and they don't like him in 2013. Still, you got to say 2013, I guess. Can you believe it's going to be 2014? Oh, man. Man, Will now thinks he's getting old. That's how bad it is. Will thinks he's getting old. Oh, my goodness. All right, folks. So when we come back, Richard Grinnell joins us, and we'll talk to him about the deal with Iran. And then, of course, Bill Kristol will be here, and we'll talk to him about the deal with Iran and how it affects Israel and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to do that right here. If you want to weigh in, folks, you're always free to do so at 877-NEWSMAX, 877-639-7629. And it all takes place 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time right here on the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.